If you already watched my previous video about my travel art kit, welcome back, especially if you're one of my lovely new subscribers. If you've not seen it, I'll try and figure out how to add a link. I'm still new at doing this, so bear with me. In that video, I joked that I didn't think anybody would ever see it because I only had 4 subscribers. And now, just a couple of weeks later, I've got 21. I know 21 is still a low number, but that's a 500% increase. Obviously, I don't expect to carry on that kind of percentage, but I'm really grateful for those of you that have subscribed, and especially those that left encouraging comments for me. That was really nice and unexpected, meant a lot. In terms of what I did on my holiday last week, I'm pretty happy with all the sketches that I did. Of course, I see the faults in everything, and I think most of us who are creative see the faults in what we create ourselves, and we think what everybody else does is perfect. But I'm happy enough with everything I did to share it with you, and that's about as good as it gets around here for self-praise. So let me show you what I did. So this is my sketchbook that I made from scratch for my trip. This is actually the second video that I've recorded because the first one ended up being very long and chatty and was actually more about my holiday than the sketches. So I thought I'd attempt to do a less wordy, shorter version. Let's see how we get on. Okay, so on the title page, this just Bradford-on-Avon was where I stayed, and this was my little shepherd's hut that I stayed in. This was done with watercolour pencils, and then my maps here were also watercolour pencils and pigment liners. Just a long map showing the context of where I was staying, the town map and the site plan of where I actually stayed. So this was my little shepherd's hut here. Highly recommend Woodbrook Barns if you're wanting to stay near Bradford-on-Avon. It was a really lovely place. My contents of my travel art bag, again, I used pretty much everything that I took with me apart from the white pens, and this page was mostly done with watercolour pencils, with the exception of the actual watercolours. I used the actual colours to fill in the pans there. This was the town that I drove through, so I didn't stop and paint this at the side of the road. I actually did this one after I got home, and I got the image from Google Earth. So this is the exact view that I saw driving through, but I didn't do it until I got home. And this was watercolour. The Saxon church that I drew, just pigment liner on that one. The town bridge over the River Avon, and this one I used the watercolour pencils and the water brushes. I left out the buildings in the background, and then later on in the book there's like a floor plan of inside this little building, which was originally used as a lockup. This one of the shepherd's hut where I stayed, I used the actual watercolours but with the water brushes. Not completely happy with the perspective on this one because you should be able to see the axle of the front wheels, so something's obviously off with the angles, but it captures the memory, so that's the most important thing. This was just some jewellery that I'd bought for myself, so it's just the gift bag and the boxes with the jewellery, and then obviously a photo of me wearing it. This day it rained pretty much all day, so I couldn't do any sketching when I was out and about. So in the evening I just did a map of everywhere I'd been. So again, this was watercolour pencils with the with the pens, and then just little notes about different things that I'd seen and done along the way. Lots of memories on that one page. I left these 2 pages blank to fill in later. So this one's just photos of all the different berries and seeds that I saw on that particular walk just alongside the canal. And then here is me with my wet muddy jeans sat underneath the canal bridge having lunch, which the ducks came to share with me, and this one duck in particular that hung around after all the others had left. Sorry if you can hear my neighbour drilling. It's always the way when anybody's doing videos, isn't it? This was a really long walk this day, not much sketching, it was more about the walking, but I did do this little diagram of the first aqueduct that I crossed over, and then I came to a second aqueduct. On the way back I ended up with big blisters, and I got the train for part of the journey back. So this I'd started drawing while I was waiting for the train, and then I finished off later with watercolour, and also this bench I'd done later in the day, copied from a photo, again with watercolour and proper brushes, not the water brushes. So this was the map of my really long walk. Again, this one is watercolour pencils, and then obviously a few photos added in along the way. Some information about the history and other bits and pieces. This one in the evening, so this was the little stove that was in the shepherd's hut, which I'd lit. And then the following day, because my feet were so sore, I did a lot more sketching and a lot less walking on this day. So this is the main building called the Tuck Barn, where I was going for breakfast. So after breakfast I sat outside at a picnic table and did this one. So this is with the proper watercolours and the proper brushes, because I was sat at a table it was easier. I didn't need to just use the water brushes, so I'm quite happy with that. Apart from the colour of the stone is not very accurate, but apart from that I'm pleased with that one. This one is my favourite page spread, just with the pen. So this tithe barn and the floor plan of the barn, and then these 2 views of the granary building which were nearby. The angles were really tricky to get right, but I think I pretty much got it close enough that I'm happy with it. But yeah, I'm really pleased with that page, and the little pigeon that was sat on the roof for part of the time when I was drawing as well. One of the lock gates and a bridge. This was really slow drawing this, because the gates opened and closed about 5 or 6 times while I was sat trying to draw it. But really nice memories of chatting with the people coming through on their boats and telling me about the mechanisms and whatnot. So yeah, it was a really slow drawing, but good memories. And then this was on the last day. So this is just the floor plan inside the lockup on the bridge. I just happened to be there on one of the days when it was open to the public, which I didn't know about beforehand. It was just pure coincidence. And then on my way home, I went to Iford Manor, which was the home and garden of Harold Pito. And this is a Italian Renaissance window in one of the sort of side extensions to the house. I had a nice seat to sit and draw that one, and that's watercolour pencils with the water brushes. And then this one, I was just sat on the grass drawing this with the pens. It was extremely uncomfortable, the angle I was at. So I ended up finishing off the details of that later, because it got to the point where I just couldn't sit there any longer. It was too uncomfortable. But I did do most of it sat there and in person. And then these 2 I did after I got home, copied from photos. I love this little dog, so funny. I've not captured his character, but the memory is there. One of two dogs for gate posts. The other one is very prim and proper, sat upright, and this one having a good old scratch. And then here was just the watering can that the gardener had left while they went off to do something else, and just the greenery growing up in amongst the steps. Again, not great with the stone colour, but overall I'm happy with it. And these were both watercolour with the proper brushes after I got home as well. And then I just finished off with some photos in and around my accommodation. So this was inside the shepherd's hut. This was the view out the front door, like early morning views. Breakfast in the barn, and a couple more bits in the town, and then some views along the canal, and finishing off with the poor little dead bat that I found in the stove in the hut. So yeah, hopefully that shorter flick through will be more what some of you are interested in seeing, just more about what I actually drew and how I drew it. If you are interested in a more chatty version, then there is a longer option, and I'll try and see if I can link that somewhere below. Or I'm still new at YouTube, so I'm sure I'll figure out how to do the link, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. But thank you for watching.